Christian Piles,
Yo,
you have a vote.
I do.
Make your argument. I don't even know. You wouldn't even tell me this morning where you're going, but I want to hear, where is your mind at in this Hodge race?
All right, just let me go, boys.
Oh, boy.
The case for Wyatt Hendrickson for the Hodge Trophy is abundantly clear. This is a guy who was undefeated, 27-0 for the record. Dominance. He had the highest dominance score of any of the candidates, 5.12, higher than Carter, higher than Mitchell. He led the candidates with pins with 13. Quality of competition. He beat the greatest wrestler in the bracket, in any bracket, Gable Steveson. There's no higher quality of competition than Gable Steveson, and he beat him. Oh, by the way, he beat a national champion, Greg Herfleet, the night before. Okay, from a sportsmanship standpoint, it's hard to find a classier individual than Wyatt Hendrickson, and his case for the Hodge Trophy is so clear and so compelling. Yet, the case for Carter Starocci is totally clear. It's totally obvious as well. He was undefeated, right? Just like Wyatt. His domination. He had a higher bonus point percentage than Wyatt Hendrickson, and his bonus rate against All-Americans was higher. And oh, by the way, he wrestled more All-Americans than any of these three candidates. He beat a national champion not once but twice. He bonus 6 of 10 All-Americans that he faced, where Wyatt was 4 of 9. His quality of competition is superior in the amount of elite wrestlers Carter faced en route to his 5th national title. And for that reason, his case is really, really obvious as well. And you could take either of those paths and be totally right. It's totally, how do you interpret what dominance is? What's dominance? What is quality of competition? Is it one guy? Is it best guy you beat? Or is it the list of wrestlers you had to beat along the way? And that's the crazy thing about this Hodge race, is that it's not just like, oh, do you prefer dominance or quality of competition? It's what is dominance? What is quality of competition? These, I think, intentionally vague sort of categories can create this sort of controversy, question on who really is it. And, oh, by the way, Mitchell Messerbrink had the highest bonus point percentage of them all. To me, Mitchell is not in the category of Wyatt and Carter for the Hodge discussion. I really don't think so, because of just his quality of competition was not as high, and you can offset not having as good quality of competition if you slaughter everyone, and he didn't bonus all the All-Americans he faced. So yeah, it's a crazy race. Who I'm gonna vote for, I don't know if I'm ready to say yet.
Really? Are you still deciding?
I honestly, and you know what's so interesting? I tweeted this yesterday. Do you consider sportsmanship? It's a criteria. It's 4th. I think it's listed 4th for a reason. But it's like, it is sort of a clear, it's not like, oh, okay, in some years it's like, okay, is Aaron Brooks or whoever a better sport? Right? But in this case, it's like, man, Carter has just done some audacious things on social media. I love Carter Starocci. But how do people factor that in? If they factor that in, the AJ stuff, the Jordan Burroughs stuff, I think he had a team point taken away against Lehigh. If you actually look at that, then that's like a ding towards Wyatt. So it's crazy. It is truly unbelievable. I'll say this. In the moment, immediately after, I said, oh, Wyatt will win and Wyatt will be my vote. And then I looked at things, as I always do, because I have a vote. I take it really seriously. I look at the criteria. I look at the full year. And then it became a lot less clear to me. And I'll be honest, I think right now my lean is actually towards Carter Starocci for the Hodge Trophy.
I have flip-flopped back and forth. Originally, I was Carter. Then I was Wyatt. I think I'm back on Carter. And the only differential for me, I don't really care about sportsmanship. I know it's criteria, but whatever. Tie. Colton Schultz put Hendrickson on his back. And
Did he?
yes, in the Big 12,
Did he get near fall?
yes. Got a reversal and 2 near fall. And
He just got a reversal.
nope, he got near fall as well. That one, you can fact check me. I'm 100% on that one. He also gave up a takedown to Utah Valley. And I realized, then he went on to pin Utah Valley. He beat Colton. He dominated Colton another time. Sure. We are splitting the thinnest of all thin hairs.
Yeah.
And so I think it really has to be something like that. If you want to do one vote, if you get one vote and you have to put it somewhere and you don't want to be Ben and split it or
Howard.
just abstain from the vote because
That is the crazy thing. You literally have to bring up things like a Utah Valley takedown.
he gave up the first takedown of the season.
Yeah.
It was in his first match. He gave up the first takedown in the first 10 seconds and then pinned that kid.
Yeah.
But
Carter beat a national champion his first match of the season.
Yeah, so I had there's some tweets that got me tight. A lot of people keep bringing up a couple things about Carter. One, that he went to overtime with a freshman, which is just the most. You're just a clear casual if you think that that's like a ding, like a freshman. No, he went to overtime with Max McAnally, who without COVID-19. We're probably talking about right now as a Hodge Trophy front runner.
only lost to Carter Starocci.
And
Parker.
And Parker.
Who both are in their
Overtime.
5th NCAA title.
Yes.
He lost to them both in overtime. He took down Carter, which Parker never did. You guys are just not properly. He beat Dustin Plott, who's in the NCAA finals last year. All 3 of those guys were only here because of COVID-19 the extra year, which I have no issue giving those guys their flowers, giving Wyatt, it's his 5th NCAA tournament, and Carter, to me, it's down to those 2. But like the context with McAnally is in, that guy's going to go down as a great. Look at what he's done. If he plateaus and just remains as that guy for the next 3 years, he's probably going to win a national title. And he's probably going to get better, guys. And then Angelo Ferrari, it's pretty obvious what he is as well. He also beat Dustin Plott. So those aren't dings for Carter Starocci when you beat guys that are that good. Going to overtime is not a bad thing when you're wrestling that many good guys. I mean, Parker Keckeisen is an all-timer. And also people that don't want to count the all-star, that's insane to me. Like, why would you not factor in that this guy made the walk when he didn't have to against the guy Carter knows? Carter is getting everyone's best crack every time out, right? He is the 4-time national champion. Parker Keckeisen knows in his heart, mind, and soul, I have to beat Carter Starocci to be a national champion. And, I get a crack at this guy in November, and he lost, right? Carter beat him. And then he beat him again with everything on the line. Every time out, he's the most scouted, and to not be defeated and to actually have your most dominant year when everyone, it's funny, people want it both ways with the 5th year, 6th year thing. Because on the one hand, you're like, well, of course, they're beating kids and they've been here forever. But on the other hand, we're seeing 5th year, 6th year guys, their bodies can't even hold up. And they're not as good and they're not as motivated. Keeping that fire to want to be good at this for 5 years is actually really hard and something, it's more of a rarity than common. And so I think that's a factor that's not given to Carter and Wyatt, frankly, enough. Like it's hard to do. There's so many like 4th year seniors you talk to them, you're like, I'm so glad. I mean, Bo Bartlett, I'm glad to be done. Right? Like, I don't know if I'm paraphrasing there, but like ready to go to freestyle. Folk style is really hard. That's what a lot of wrestlers are saying there. And Carter has been the guy to beat ever since he beat Kimmer in the NCAA finals, and no one has done it. No one has beaten him. And never part of. I think it's crazy to consider him winning 5 as the reason. That is not factored in. You haven't heard me bring up he did it 5 times. It has nothing to do with why I think Carter
should get Hodge.
Vote. Yeah, it's nothing to do with it.
You mentioned Mitchell. Something that got you fired up was people talking about how techs are more dominant than pins.
That is crazy to me. Yeah. Multiple people were bringing up, and these are Mitchell Messenbrink voters, stands that think a tech, that Mitchell having techs is more impressive than Wyatt having pins. Mm-hmm. So basically what you're saying is when Wyatt, so there's a couple things they say. They're like, pins can be fluky. Okay, sure, edge case. Also, Wyatt Hendrickson does not have any fluke pins this year, probably in his career. It is who he is. He takes guys down, he puts them on their back, he holds them there till the ref slaps the mat. The idea that he couldn't tech these guys is laughable. He obviously could if that was his goal. But the wrestling rules and the wrestling scoring system says if you pin, you get your team more points. So he goes out and does that. So you guys give Mitchell a bump for not pinning guys, and you ding Wyatt for not teching. That makes literally no sense logically. It makes no sense by the scoring of the rules. Giving Mitchell extra credit for teching a wrestler is insane. I've heard multiple people. I think Ben used to be like, well, a tech is actually more dominant. This is coming from the most prolific pinner in NCAA history, Ben. I remember us arguing about it. It's like, yes, there can be fluke pins, but Carter Starocci and Wyatt Hendrickson did not have a single fluke pin. They rolled guys over and pinned them.
That's why they literally have higher dominance, scores an average team point per match out there than Mitchell, who had a higher bonus rate.
Right, exactly. Because the pin is still the ultimate way to win in wrestling. And one other thing, like people say, well, he went to overtime. Well, Wyatt had to come from behind to beat Gable. Like, winning in overtime versus coming from behind, I don't know what the difference is. It's like there's close matches. It's the NCAA wrestling tournament. Like, that's what you have to go through that kind of thing sometimes to win.
Well, the other part of it too is Wyatt only wrestled Gable once.
Yeah.
Whereas Carter, he wrestled Keck Eisen twice, and he wrestled Max McAnally, who's we already know right on the level. He did it how many times? 3 times and won every like that's just.
And Angelo Ferrari.
And Angelo Ferrari. So that's just kind of who he is. Whereas, Wyatt, he wrestled the guys in front of him, but as you mentioned, like quality of competition, it does matter.
Yeah.
I think this is an interesting question that you put in the chat. Who's going to win? I think Carter's going to win. Like I think that's I think
it's crazy.
Well, just for a couple of reasons. Number one, think of how many Penn State guys have votes.
Two less with David.
That's going to matter. Oh, there you go. That's true.
Also, I don't know that Penn State isn't sort of flipped on this.
Really?
With Carter and Mitchell.
That's true. They could split the votes.
Much.
Yeah.
My mentions, I would say it's almost even, 33% across the board. There are so many people that think Mitchell should get the Hodge.
Yeah, but you'd think that the guys that actually have the votes know.
Think they'll get on the same page?
Yes.
So, I didn't think about.
Bo Nickel thinks it should go to Wyatt.
I didn't think about splitting the vote.
Look, he tweeted it at me.
But my other thought was Wyatt kind of hasn't been in the conversation.
No.
The whole year. So it's kind of been like, well, will it be Gable or will it be Carter? And so I feel like once voters have a little bit of time to sit and think about it, it's like we were thinking Carter the whole year.
Right.
And does one, I know it's not one match.
We were thinking Gable all year.
I know. Yeah, I know. But it's like, I know it's not one match, but does one match or does one tournament really swing things to be like, well, yeah, Wyatt Hendrickson's now the best.
It's also not one
wrestler.
tournament. Wyatt just wasn't in the conversation because Gable.
No one thought he could win.
Mm-hmm.
There is a little bit of weird revisionist on Gable right now, whereas the entire narrative was that this is the most next topic weight of all time from this room, from outside this room. And now that Wyatt's beaten him, it's like, whoa, now I'm seeing Oh,
2 years off.
Gable's 2 years out to. Well, what? Hold on.
No.
What
No.
is it?
I'm not doing that.
Well, I see. I even talked to another Hodge voter who said like he's been out of the game, and
That's crazy.
You know, I'm
I
like-
literally came here on Monday's show and said, I don't care if you did pick Wyatt Hendrickson. That was a bad pick, like ahead of time.
yeah.
Can I say this though? I wish I would have said this last show, something I thought of after this show, but I do think you wrestled that match 10 times Saturday night, Gable versus Wyatt, and you severance them each time so they don't know the result. I think Wyatt wins that match 6 times out of 10.
I think I don't know if it's 6. I think it's way closer than people realize. I don't think that was a 1 in 10 shot. I think folk style is so much harder than freestyle.
Yes, yeah.
It is so much harder. And just the ways you can compete in positions and not get scored on and take something out of your opponent, I think that in a simulation with them feeling the exact same way, I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I think Wyatt wins. I'm not saying 6, but 4, maybe.
JD's just saying the way that match played out, like
Yeah.
the
Well, I just felt
circumstances
like-
of the match.
I would say
Saturday night
maybe 2 times.
was Wyatt's night. And I think if they
Stars
wrestle
align.
again and Gable knows, oh, you beat me, I got to take this serious. I got to absolutely lock in, fight for every point. It's going to be a dogfight. Then maybe it goes different. But same scenario where they're going in, everything's the same. It was Wyatt's night, and it wasn't a fluke win. He beat him. He just beat him. And I think he was going to beat him, maybe not 6, but 5, 6.
Yeah.
Wyatt earned that win, and I think he would have done it many times.
Yeah. And what's interesting to me is I thought about this morning. Bo Nickel and Starocci were kind of right. When they had their podcast, they're like, Greg can beat Gable. Like, and they kind of like almost touched on what David was saying. It's like they basically were saying Greg's just got to kind of believe it, right? And like kind of think he can beat him. And it felt like at the Big Tens, it didn't seem like Greg actually
Believed it.
he wasn't going after him. I don't know if he did. And for whatever, like Wyatt Hendrickson, Greg Kerfleet, Greg has dominated that historically. He is better than Wyatt on the whole, right? But I do think it was the belief factor in that Gable match is that Wyatt really, for whatever reason, was crazy enough to think he could win.
It's crazy that Wyatt and Gable they've never wrestled.
Well, freestyle.
Yeah, but
Not in folk
not in folk style at all.
Well, Gable didn't wrestle in 2021. They've only been in the same field 2 different years, I want to say.
Okay.
22 and this year. Because Gable wasn't in 23, 24.
Wyatt wasn't in
21.
2019.
Right.
Is there a fan vote this year?
Yeah. Make sure you
I
do
think the
that.
fan vote is going to go to Wyatt.
I do too.
I think so too.
And I think there's a lot of, listen, Penn State has a lot of votes. There's a lot of votes out there. And I don't know. I part of me thinks Wyatt might get it. And listen, you've heard me. I honestly, I'll vote for who I vote for, and that's kind of who I'll say I prefer this guy to win because, but if the opposite of who I vote for gets it, as long as it's not Mitchell, I'll be like, I just don't, and Mitchell's going to win the Hodge probably next year.
Next year.
Right?
Yeah.
I think they both should get it. I'm just-
Crazy. 2021, honestly, I don't support the co-Hodge, but it is sort of a goofy year. Like, no one got full seasons.
yeah.
Only in conference.
It is sort of like an exceptional thing. There's so few, there's not enough data. I didn't support it, but it's like, never again.
I should have just come in here really hard that they should do the double Hodge and made my debate about
You should have
that.
said Mitchell and Carter.
yeah.
I am surprised at how strong of takes people have one way
Dude,
or the
care
other.
so
Which
much.
I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
I love it. That's why fans rule, and that's why they're the best. And I'm glad they do.
No, everyone thinks it's obvious for who they think, and they
Right.
think it's 3 different people.
Crazy.
They really do. Like, so many people are like, Mitchell is so obvious. Has to go to Carter. Wyatt, what are we talking about here? That's never been the case.
Well, did you see there's a comment in the chat that we are campaigning for Wyatt because we posted all of his matches on Flow, and we didn't do that for Starocci or Messenbrink. So
dude, it's because we look at who is like a key Google search term, and Wyatt Hendrickson's name is popping off, so we posted his matches.
I think we all honestly on here are leaning Carter.
Yeah, I think all of us sitting here.
So is that part of our double secret reverse psychology?
you'll never know.
Wyatt had the moment of the NCAA season.
Yeah, he had a moment, like for sure.
It's such a fun race. I love the Hodge Trophy. I love what it represents. I think it rewards the right things in wrestling. It's really cool, and I like that it's not a lifetime achievement thing. And the list of wrestlers who haven't won the Hodge make it even more special.
Mm-hmm.
Jason
Nolf, Kyle Snyder.
Dude,
Yanni.
Jason Nolf not winning is crazy. It makes you wonder if Mitchell will maybe not get his.
Like, okay,
who could win it next year?
Yeah. I mean, Max McAnally. But he's going to be in a...
Bonus rate isn't quite as the same.
It's super high.
It is.
Are you
good.
kidding me?
It did dwindle towards the end of the year, but...
He had a bunch of bonus point wins.
Mm-hmm.
He was... And now, if you look at the guys he didn't bonus, like Dustin Plott was one. He didn't bonus Gabe Arnold. I know he went to overtime. He didn't bonus Bennett Berge, but he had a ton of bonus points. What are these people saying?
They're just all over the place.
All over the place.
Yeah, I don't even have.
Someone's mad I only wrestled one
we
when
call
you're in
out.
high school. Doesn't think I know enough. So doesn't think I know enough wrestling.
Yeah.
Maybe you know more than me.
Hey,
A lot of people just feel so strongly that Wyatt should like no question be the winner.
Okay.
And that's the thing. That's the only thing is I don't see that many people saying that about Carter, which is kind of wild because like I feel like the four of us all are kind of leaning Carter.
Shane Sparks put it out there. Richard Immel put his vote out there. But Richard's acting like it's so obvious too. I'm like, wow.
Obvious for Carter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not obvious for anyone. I mean, I think it is obvious that Carter and Wyatt are the two front runners.
Mm-hmm.
I think the broad view that why people are arguing so far for Wyatt is he had an incredibly dominant season and he be one of the all-time greats.
Yeah.
In Gable. People are arguing it's so obvious for Carter Starocci because I think most people, without looking at stats and records, just go, Carter is the best pound-for-pound wrestler in NCAA wrestling right now and just won his 5th title.
Yeah.
And I think those are kind of the two narratives going on between a lot of fans. And like we said, between those two, there's really no wrong answer.
Yeah.
You have a basically airtight argument for both.
Yeah.
Make it happen. Win double Hodge.
Dang. Don't do
Carter
it.
is just like the perfect like image of consistency and dominance.
Insane. This year and every other year. Even though that doesn't factor in, for sure.
I mean, we kind of talked about how you're factoring in other years for why Wyatt's win over Gable is a big deal.
Well, I mean, I think you need the quality of competition. Gable is high quality. He was very high quality this year, right? But, you know, Parker Keckheisen was a returning national champion.
You need context.
That matters. You need context. But I'm not going back to, I'm not saying, Carter beat Mekhi Lewis and Shane Griffith back to back. I'm not talking about that.
Yeah.